walk us through. Give me a couple ideas. What do you?
Yeah.
How do you? If this is resonating,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And okay, your job's on a laptop. Fine.
Yep.
Your job is in front of two big screens because you're a data person or
yes,
whatever. Or your job's like ours. It's on a phone.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay.
I did a talk based on my book to a bunch of video game developers.
Okay.
Right. So
that's
like
their planet.
Their planet is like not only video games like on a console, but like VR.
Yeah.
Right. So like these people they're immersed. So here's the no phone guy coming in to talk to video, and it's like, listen, it's more about falling back in love.
It's not about the phones.
It's not about the phones.
I love it. Okay.
I'm telling you, it's not about the phones. When you start falling back, so you're an accountant on your screen or whatever, a simple thing. If you're going to watch a movie with your family, the only screen you're allowed to watch is the movie screen.
Gosh,
okay.
Yes.
Here we go. So now what have you done? You've severed another screen out of your, and so now because most people watch TV and movies now with a screen in their hands. So,
dude, because I'm so sophisticated, I have social media on another phone because I'm more pure.
Oh, yeah.
I have both of them up. Last night,
So
I
good.
watched the election results. I'm texting on multiple text threads.
and then
I'm scrolling.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's simple. Watch a movie. Just watch the movie. Be with your family. Talk about the movie. Laugh. Just watch it. You're not there. Second thing. This is probably has been the most powerful thing for me. You talk about being present. Now, again, I know not everybody can do this. I was talking to a bunch of nurses, like in hospice care a few weeks ago, and one of the single greatest things that I've done is I placed my phone on permanent do not disturb. My phone, the only phone calls I allow, the only buzzing that ever happens on my phone will never buzz unless my wife, kids, or my mom calls me, not text me.
Yeah.
They know if they text me, I'm not going to know until I look at my phone. Okay. So that doesn't mean that I'm not getting notifications. They're still on my screen when I decide to look at my phone. But for a year and a half, my phone has been on permanent do not disturb. So, which I'm sure Whitney, my assistant, or my manager, or my wife, I'm sure it drives some people crazy because, my phone isn't in charge of me anymore. It never buzzes. I was with the monks, day 10. Sitting in Father Francis's office, pouring my heart out. He's like, "Yes, young man." All these books around. He's in his big robe, and his phone, I'll never forget, goes bzz, bzz. While I'm like, and he's like, "Excuse me, young man," and he picks up his phone, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, hold on." He puts it back down, and I was like, "Did this monk just do?" Like, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I need to read your book," But I spent 2 months and never had one ding or buzz on my body to take me away from being present with the person in front of me. When I got home, I was like, I have to continue this. This has to be. So like, I will never be with somebody and my brain go away from the conversations we're in, even though they didn't hear the buzz in my pocket. My brain goes to my phone for 1 second and then back to the conversation. I've left into an alternate universe. And so that's one thing I've done. Whatever it looks like for you to turn do not disturb on. Yeah. That's been a game changer for me. So now I'm in charge of when I'm picking my phone up. Again, I talked about this morning to the staff, buying an alarm clock. Yeah. The Harvard study showed that the last 30 minutes we're awake before we fall asleep, and the first 30 minutes we wake up, we're consuming more content than like my great-grandparents' generation consumed in a month. Right. So, and again, we're wondering why we're so anxious. Yeah. So just buying an alarm clock, plugging your phone in another room, read a book before you go to bed. And so you're going to save yourself an hour, right? So
this is the unpopular conversation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be disrespectful.
Yeah.
If you live in a community, it's a rural community, and you don't have tons of people around.
Yeah, absolutely.
The neuroscience still applies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you have a really busy job.
Yeah.
The truth is the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
If the thought of, so here's the thing that happened here, right? I'll use myself as I never got home before 7 o'clock, maybe 6:30. If I was like, my wife would be like, "Hey," right?
Wow,
when I was working higher ed, I was always another article to read, another budget to do, another student crisis to write up. And I was here, and my boss, Dave, was doing a late night media hit. He pops in, everybody's gone. I'm here at 6:30 because first in, last out, right?
Yeah.
And he says, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I'm finishing up these articles. I was reading mental health articles because he hired me to be a mental health guy.
Yeah.
And he said, go home. All right, dude. Like, I'm finishing up. I'll be gone. He comes into the little complex and he gets real close. And he said, I said, go home. And he said it in a kind of a paternal way. I was like, oh, I'm a grown man, dude. Like, and I looked at him and he said this, if you're no good there, you'll be no good here. And then he said, you will not use the name Ramsey as an excuse to not be a present husband and father. Go home.
Wow. Jeez.
So I went home.
Yeah.
So the next day, I was like, I'm going to not do my work. I'm just going to go home when everybody goes home. Carlos, I got home at like 5:30, 5:15. And I realized I did not know how to be a dad and a husband from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Whoa.
There was a rhythm of my family that I was completely unaware of.
Yes.
And I injected my chaos into that.
Yep.
I was like, hey, son, what are you working on?
Yeah.
He's like, Dad, I'm doing homework.
Just relax.
My daughter, I'm like, hey, and she's like, and my wife was like, hey, everybody's just quiet when we get home. They've had crazy days. And so if you're thinking about, what am I going to do? Just put my phone away?
Right.
And I'm going to have to face that marriage. I'm going to have to face 3 kids that I know they love me, but we don't like each other. Or I don't even know how to interact with them.
Yes. This is so good.
You have to go there. I guess that's what I'm asking you to do is you got to head into that.
Yeah.
Because that's where the healing is, because that's where your life's on the other side of that.
Absolutely, man.
Is that fair?
That's very fair.
If you don't like what you see in the mirror, you got to go have a conversation with your doctor.
Yes.
Or with we're avoiding reality, and I think there's a reckoning with reality.
Well, and that reckoning is what people are scared of.
It's terrifying.
But I want to let everybody know that on the other side of that reckoning is much freedom and peace.
I know.
It's so much, and I was the same way when I got home and I had no screens with my family. Like,
we're just going to talk to each other?
And my kids were like, Dad, will you stop talking to me? You know, like, 'cause I just was like, hey, how's that? You know, and they weren't used to me being that present. And I'm telling you, presence and solitude, it feels like a reckoning because it is going to be a reckoning for all of, you know, and the CPA that's on their laptop 8 hours a day, you know, I know nurses that are on call 24/7, you have to have your phone on, you can't put it on do not disturb. Right. There's caveats, right? There's way, but I promise you, every single person listening to this knows the one thing they can do to do the next right thing. To get a little bit of that freedom back in their life when it comes to these screens. And you all have an opportunity to do it. What's it going to be? What's the one choice you're going to make today? And again, I tell people, do 1 hour on a Saturday with no screen. Just start there. That alone gives some people heart palpitations.
And when you start doing this, admit to yourself, I got a problem.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's like when I'm like, I'm not going to eat candy for 2 weeks. And 30 minutes in, I'm like, I
know, totally.
I got a problem. You know what I mean? I got a problem. It just is.
It
own
just is.
It.
Yeah. Own it. And just trust me when I tell you. Trust me, because I may be the only person that that if you're listening to this, I'll say that you know me now. I'm the only person you know that's actually done this for 2 months. I'm telling you, on the other side of that reckoning, I love that you called it a reckoning. On the other side is you're going to fall back in love with wondering and savoring and being truly human. That you're just. You're going to be able. This is how I like to explain it. I moved to Nashville. This is what it's going to feel like. I put up a photo this morning of stars that it doesn't really work on.
God, dude, that was like.
Yeah, and so like that doesn't really work on like a podcast. But let me explain it this way. This is what it felt like when I finally got unaddicted to my phone. I moved to Nashville 2010, and my wife told me about 3 weeks in that I'm wheezing every night. She's like, hey, you sound like Darth Vader when you're sleeping. And I was like, what do you mean? She's just like I can hear you breathing like heavy, like maybe you have asthma. And I was like, babe, I don't have asthma. I've never had asthma my whole life. I'm 40 years old. She's like, you should go to an allergist. So I went to a doctor and he did an allergy test on me. I said, my wife says I'm wheezing. I don't hear myself wheezing. I feel fine. I'm working out every day. I'm running. He said, well, let me do an allergy test. So he tested all the allergies. He's like, dude, you're allergic to Nashville. Like everything. Every tree, every piece of grass. He's like, let me do a breathing test on you. So he had me blow into this tube and he goes, man, you're only using 60% of your lung capacity. I said, what? I feel fine. He goes, you feel fine because you're used to it. You're used to not breathing. but let me give you something. Then he pulled out this inhaler. I've never used an inhaler in my life. He's like, shake it up. I want you to take a hit. And the second breath you take, your lungs are going to go from 60% to 100. I said, okay, whatever. I did it. The next breath I took, bro, after months of living in Nashville, I took a breath at 100% after only taking a breath at 60. And I almost started to weep.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know I was suffocating.
That's what I feel right now.
And this is
Right
what
this
I'm
second,
telling people is when you do this, you may be thinking, I don't need to do this. I'm fine. I'm telling you, when you take that breath after your inhaler, you're going to realize this is what it's like to breathe, and I haven't been breathing.
Yeah. So there's another side to it.
Yeah.
And that's this. And I always just want to, I always want to be honest. When I tell people like, hey, you're heading on a journey, it's always day 3.
Yeah.
Right? You're like,
I know.
this trip sucks, right? Or your new workout program, it's like, I'm so sore, I can't move. I was having lunch with a couple of fancy pantsers who's got bank accounts.
Not with me.
Yeah. It was not the cheeseburger Carlos. And one of the guys at the table didn't understand what I was doing. And I'm new to this whole thing, and I don't really understand what I'm doing either. And they're like, so what? You know, like squinty, looking at you like you're stupid. Like they're going to squint their way to figuring you out. Like, now what are you doing? I'm like, well, I travel around and speak. And he goes, I'd never hire you to come talk to my company.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? I've been talking to companies forever. So you don't know anything about marketing and sales.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wouldn't talk to you about marketing and sales. Right. And he said, well, with squint, like, what do you talk about?
Yeah.
And did I just throwing spaghetti at a wall?
Yeah.
And I said, I bet your kids don't like being in the room with you.
Oh, jeez.
And it went.
Oh, wow.
And I said, or you walk in and your kids either pick up their phones or they just get up and head to the room and you say, that's just them being teenagers.
Yeah.
And you know it's not.
Yeah.
And it was he leaned back and he smiled real big in that way that only super rich people know when they got had.
Totally,
and he smiled and he goes, you got my attention, right? Here's the reality.
Yeah.
Reckonings, there's peace on the other side of a reckoning, but reckonings are hell.
Reckoning's a reckoning.
And there will be a whole bunch of people that put their phones down and they realize their marriage has been dead for 10 years.
Yeah.
They realize their kids are not okay.
Yeah.
They realize their health is precarious, right? Or they hate their job and they don't have a path.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think I don't want to use religious language, but there's a holiness to, there's a refinement to the only path towards a real life is through the middle of that fire.
Yeah.
Not avoiding it or walking around it.
Dude.
And so if you can put your phone down and look at your spouse and say, look, we got a choice.
Yeah.
We can walk away. This is me and my wife. We can be done.
Yep.
Or we've chosen our way into this.
Yep.
We can choose an amazing something else and it's going to suck, but we can choose that too.
Absolutely, man.
That I guess I feel a sense of re-empowerment. There's something about putting your phone down, meaning, no, do you get to choose what happens next?
Yes. Well, and that, again, not to revolve around religious language, but bro, I had to come to a reckoning when I didn't have my phone and I'm with these monks and all of a sudden, like, I feel like God's silent and I feel like, I'm like, what is this fairy tale I believe in? Next thing you know, like everything fell apart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I couldn't Google it to put it back together.
That's right. Because it wasn't about ansers. It wasn't about the chapter and the verse. It was about oh gosh, I'm sitting here with a swetter full of yarn.
I'm telling you, bro, it was, I had numerous reckonings. You can read about it in the book, but definitely a lot of reckoning and a lot of freedom on the other side.
I can choose to continue to live at 60% lung capacity, and that life is hard.
Yeah,
I can choose to say, okay, I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to get a band of people, and we're going to figure it out. Yeah, and that's going to be real hard. Yeah, but I don't think there's an easy option anymore.
There's not an easy option. But just like that screen time notification came across my screen, there's an aha moment waiting for every single person. If the only thing I'm asking people to do is do the math. So just do your math, and do your math. See how many years you're losing of your life. Legitimately, I should have called my book, Get Half Your Life Back.
Yeah,
because if you even just cut it in half, I can legitimately say on this microphone, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you will get half of your life that you were losing back. And if that's not motivating enough, like to think like, gosh, I could actually live 10 more years. Well, maybe not in length, but in life.
In depth.
In depth.
Yeah.
Like it is, yeah. So, if you're a developer, if you're like, chew on it. Let this be hard. Like it is hard. Like this isn't.
And if you don't think you're worth another half,
Yeah.
for God's sake, go talk to somebody.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you're not a burden, and you're worth having that kind of depth. And if that terrifies you, that's the healing.
Absolutely.
Like, you're worth the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some things besides an alarm clock and a newspaper?
Yeah.
Rattle off some things that are going to sound like we are rolling back the clock a little bit, but I think it's the new progress.
Yeah. I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
I rarely, if ever, now drink my coffee out of a to-go cup. If I go to a Starbucks, I need to let everyone know they have ceramic mugs. I was in Italy and I went to a gas station on a road trip, the middle of nowhere. And I went in to get a to-go coffee. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, can I get the espresso to go? And they're like, to go? And I looked down the middle of nowhere country gas station, and there's three, one old man, one kind of maybe 30-year-old woman, and someone else leaning against the counter with their little ceramic mugs, sipping their espresso. And I thought to myself, if I don't have 3.5 minutes to drink my coffee before it gets lukewarm out of a ceramic mug, then I'm moving too fast. So literally every single coffee shop I go to, I ask for a ceramic mug and I never get it to go. So there's one thing that I do. Savoring is something that I think we need to redevelop our skill set. We can get used to, you're in this world, you can get used to good things, right? Like you can, something was great and then you have it all the time. It's like, it doesn't feel so great anymore. One of the things I now do is when I look at my life and I see something that I've gotten used to how good it is, I walk away from it for a second and I come back to it. Why? Well, if you walk into a bakery and it smells amazing, oh, it smells so good. And you get that croissant and you start drinking your coffee and you eat the croissant. Well, 5 minutes later, you can't smell the croissant anymore. But someone else walks in and they go, oh my gosh, it smells amazing. And you're like, I don't smell it anymore. What do you have to do? You have to walk out of the bakery. You have to come back in to experience it again. So I try to do that all the time. I try to walk away and then come back in so I can recognize that I've gotten used to the goodness.
Can we double click on that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe the purpose of meals is not to go to Yelp and have a perfect meal every time.
No.
Maybe a big part of meals is going, that was terrible.
Yeah.
That
Totally.
wasn't great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat there again.
Yes.
Or how many of us have I remember seeing Paul Blart. I laughed.
Yes.
And then I ran across a review and it was like one tomato or something.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling stupid.
Yeah, totally.
Like, nope.
Totally.
I get to think that movie was funny.
That's
I get to think Tommy Boy's funny.
Yep, you get to. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
And so maybe the perfect isn't the perfect date and the perfect sex and the perfect this. Maybe life is this.
Oh, yes,
and that's
man.
the depth. That's the richness.
Get lost. How about this? Don't put Chick-fil-A in your freaking GPS because you know how to get there. And the only reason you're putting it in there is, what if there's traffic and I can get a faster way? No, just drive to Chick-fil-A. Stop putting everything in your... So many people tell me now, they're like, yeah, it's so weird. Like if I'm driving to church or driving to the office, sometimes I'll put my office in my GPS, even though I drive every day, because I'm like, what if there's traffic? And I'm like, what if there's traffic? Maybe you're just supposed to sit and be still for a while.
Yeah.
Something else that I do. If I'm ever... I don't do this when I'm flying, but when I'm driving now, I no longer listen to podcasts in the car. Yeah. I only listen to podcasts if I'm on a trip, if I'm flying. Now, you're going to have to figure this out for yourself, but solitude, we're the first generation of people walking the earth that have the opportunity to completely get rid of solitude. This has never happened in the history of humanity. If anyone was traveling alone from point A to point B up until when the car radio was invented, they had solitude. We no longer have solitude. And so start making a decision. You're going to go on a walk without your AirPods. You're going to go on a walk without your phone. You're going to drive from point A to point for 30 minutes without any content consumption. So like even those little things, I think, can help you recapture this lost art of being human. That's literally, the subtitle is How 7 Screen-Free Weeks with Monks and Amish Farmers Helped Me Recover the Lost Art of Being Human. Yeah. Because it's an art that I feel like we all know. And some people are listening to this, honestly, if you're 20 years old, you've never known life.
You don't know this.
You don't even know this.
This sounds like we're talking about living on the moon.
Yes. And I'm telling you, give it a shot.
Yes.
Try it. And you're going to be like, oh, you're going to have that hit of the inhaler.
And it's I remember being under a tree in the field when I heard this and it freaked me out.
Yeah.
Dude, it was a bird.
Yes.
Bird wings make noise.
Make noise.
So, depending on how big the bird is, loud noise.
Yeah.
I'd never heard it.
Yes.
And it made me wonder, what else am I missing?
What else?
And so, yeah, occasionally go on a walk without your...
Yeah.
And write down, I'm not going to spoil it here. You got to get the book, but I'm going to start keeping, this is going to sound cheesy.
Yeah.
For all you beefcake, I'm going to start keeping a wonder journal.
Yes.
Stuff that I just rediscovered or discovered that I didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't know you could hear birds flap their wings.
Exactly. I
didn't
that.
know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was this many different colors of flowers.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I'm going to start keeping a wonder. I didn't know this meal could taste that good.
Yes.
Or that bad. Right? I didn't know it could be that bad.
You know, I mean, and I mean, gosh, what even I talked about earlier today, slowing down to what I call Godspeed, 3 miles an hour. Like, what in your life can you slow down? You know, when COVID happened and everyone's shut down and we're stuck at home, everyone's walking. So suddenly my neighborhood looked like Central Park. And my family and I would walk around the neighborhood. And it's so funny. I'd lived there for 7 years and I was like, the first walk, I was like, what's that? It smells like a rose garden. And I looked in my neighbor's backyard that I've never seen before because I drive by at 30 miles an hour, but I'm walking and I literally smelled something I never smelled before. And I realized they've got an entire rose garden. And oh my gosh, they've got bees back there. I was noticing things I never would have because I slowed down. I'm telling you, we're missing so much. Last thing, I was at the Atlanta airport and I decided after I wrote this book to count out of 100 people coming up the escalator, how many people were looking at their phone and how many people weren't. I want to take a guess as to how many out of 100 people were looking at their phone.
Was it 90?
100.
Holy smokes.
100. And I just thought to myself, we're literally living our life looking straight down.
Yeah.
Gaze up and glance down. It shifts things.
I started a practice in airports. I'm in there so much.
Yeah.
And this sounds ridiculous. And it's hard for me even to explain it to non-therapists. There's a thing in therapy where if you're meeting with a client and you feel yourself kind of falling asleep, getting bored, like you're struggling to stay connected, is to imagine, this sounds cheesy, almost Care Bear style. Like my chest is connected, like there's a beam from my heart to yours.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna consciously, and it became this. It started as a cheesy, like kind of roll my eyes, and then it became magic. Which is walking down just the regular airport, and looking at somebody and saying, "I love that guy. I love that woman." Wow. And you start to see people's faces, and you see their exhaustion, you see their joy, you see their nervousness. Yeah. But it was just a simple practice of, I love that guy. Yeah. I love that woman. I love that guy.
Oh, dude.
But it became this, I will do a thing so that I see the people that I'm walking by.
Yes.
And it makes me slow down.
And you can't do that if you're not looking up.
And you can't do that with earbuds shoved in. And all of my house is paid for with people listening to me. So I get what I'm asking.
Same.
And I think there's a time and a place, but I think there's something about plugging back in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, this is one of those moments where my family's life, my marriage will be different today because of your time and the work that you put in. So thank you for that. I don't say that lightly.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Unfortunately for you, now you got a new friend. So we live in the same town.
We'll have cheeseburger time.
Yeah, and we'll go to a punk rock show. I got black skinny jeans.
I will hold you. I don't wear skinny. No. It's the one time I can pull out my secret cargo shorts.
Yeah, the cargo shorts.
The one pair my wife didn't get rid of.
You'll have to teach me how to do that. I was listening to NWA, so we'll just trade.
Yes. Hey, appreciate you, brother.
Dude, thanks for having me.